Hello, Peter, Mardi, and the rest of the Amplatz team. We've had a meaningful and creative discussion yesterday regarding alternatives to leadership development. Supertrain has suggested a project-focused program. You, Peter, suggested using Microsoft Teams. So what you're looking at is a proposal of how we think this could work. And obviously it's a working document we can add to this. I hope you enjoy. Okay, we believe this program would be composed of 8 sessions. You can see the sessions on your screen. We will shortly go into each session. There is an option if you want to attach this to a problem-solving standard. We are accredited for a level 6 standard. And I see the duration as being about 3 months or 12 weeks, which is the time allocated right now in the present program for learners to complete their projects. Okay, our thoughts on learning material. So this material would support the actual interactive session using Microsoft Teams. There has to be a learner guide. There has to be a project workbook, including a learning journal. So the journal is quite new, and the journal is something we do come across in action learning or project-based learning. So we see that as very important, and we do see there being a video per session, very similar to what you're looking at now. We're also happy to include as an additional bonus, it's a marketing coming out in me, Peter, a report writing video as additional self-study. Okay, what do I think a team view interactive session is going to look like? I think there is going to be part 1, probably about 45 minutes. It's a check-in. There'll be a pre-test marking. The pre-test would need to be done before the session. So that will test their knowledge regarding pre-reading. And then there will be feedback from their journal where learners will be asked to share based on the previous phase of the project. So this encourages learning from each other. The bulk of the session, I see this about 90 minutes, includes a video. So during this time, the learners will watch a short video on the next session. And after the video will be discussions and questions and answers relating to that phase of the project. I then see approximately a 15-minute session whereby we just go through the instructions and the specific template for the next step. Finally, there's a 15-minute checkout. Learner support. Suitable venue with Wi-Fi, PC, projector, audio and microphone. Alternatively, a number of PCs, perhaps 1 PC per pair of learners. Alternatively, 5 different offices and pairs sitting in the different offices. But ultimately, they need a screen, whether it's on the PC or on the wall. They need opportunity to share, so there has to be a microphone. They need to be able to hear, that's obvious. Okay. I definitely think there needs to be a mentor appointed. What I've discovered with previous projects, learners seem to have a fear communicating with management. We must have a mentoring or coaching session with mentors to discuss the interaction and the level of coaching and the nature of the coaching that these learners would need. I do see a program schedule per group, time allocated to learners. Okay, so obviously a very big issue here is allocating the time, and I think it's about creating a user-friendly and realistic program schedule, and where we keep learners in the same groups, so they would be supporting each other. The first session has to be orientation. We shouldn't underestimate the value of this session. That would typically include introductions, the outcomes of the program, the expectations we need to share, expectations from the training provider, from management, and obviously learner expectations. We would need to agree on norms, and then very important, the bulk of this first session would be capacity building, working with your coach or your mentor, and actually identifying the mentor in terms of who would be an appropriate person for supporting you during this project. Session 2, Trivial Pursuit. So we are talking about a quiz, and perhaps the name of this could change. I'm not sure it is trivial. However, I'd like to see a quiz here which tests learners on their understanding of various categories. I'm not sure I've got all the categories correct, but I've got a technical category, a safety and health category, and an HR and training category. So what is the purpose of this quiz? It's very simple. Supervisory capacity is underpinned by the knowledge relating to these various categories. Supervisors don't make decisions, and they don't solve problems without thorough knowledge of their operation, of their processes, of their systems, of their standards. And I would like to use this session to encourage self-directed learning, to encourage self-assessment, and to develop an excitement for learning and for the rest of this program. Hope that makes sense. Session 3 would focus on problem description. So one of the elements we would cover would be establishing a project team. As a supervisor, we expect the supervisor to be involving his or her team. I think that's where much of the learning comes out. Point 2 is identifying a problem, and the team would be involved in that, and it could most certainly involve analysis of charts. And third element would be actually describing the problem in a professional and a factual manner. And 4 would be costing that problem. So what are the implications of this problem if left or if ignored over a period of 12 months? Team session 4, identifying causes. We would definitely look at the concept suspending judgment, and very simply that means not jumping to conclusions, seeing a problem and immediately guessing what you think is the solution. We know that often leads to solutions that are not sustainable. So we'll discuss that, but obviously a very big part of session 4 is techniques to analyze the problem. Session 5, generating solutions. We would talk about digitalization, knowing that that is a strategic objective of AMPLATS. We want to set the scene because we want to encourage projects that lend themselves to digital solutions. Whether now or in the future, the topic should be addressed. We definitely want to encourage innovative thinking, and what you're looking at there is a list of terms that triggers creative thinking. It comes from a man by the name of Osborne. It just encourages solutions. Can we rearrange a process? Can we modify it? Can we adapt it? Can we substitute it? Can we magnify or minimize? So really in this section we'd be looking at tools to put solutions on the table. And finally, I know Francois enjoys this tool, the criteria evaluation matrix we'll be covering. Number 6, implementation. Often this is the part done the worst. People like putting ideas together, finding problems. That seems to be easy, identifying problems, finding solutions. Actually following through and implementing and ensuring that the solution is working, that's not always so easy. This session is actually divided into 2 parts, and I've thought part 1 would be run by Supertrain, and that's really the scheduling or the project planning part of implementing, and I thought Tandi would need to come in with her change management plan. Team session 7, evaluate success. So we have implemented our solution. We need to gather data, display it if we can, look for trends, evaluate those trends. If we need to, we adjust, we reevaluate, we modify. Basically, it involves experimenting, sometimes putting sustainable solutions in place that work involves experimentation. And finally, it would involve updating the standard. If you look at this, we have basically followed a continuous improvement process. Okay, team session 8, present solution. We will, in this session, give learners the skills to put professional PowerPoint presentations together, and we will cover communication skills, managing their nerves, and such like. The very last session, that would then be 9, would be actually conducting that presentation to management, and that could happen in a venue. It could happen actually also on Microsoft Teams, where a number of stakeholders could actually be involved and evaluate and ask questions. Peter, Mardi, and team, hope you're still with me. What you're looking at is a list of competencies that will result from this project-based development program. On the left is a list of the sessions or the project phases. On the right is the corresponding competencies related to that phase. I don't think the list is totally complete. We could add to it. Let's think about it. Session 1, orientation. I'm quite sure that teams will be computer literate. If they're not computer literate by now, after session 1, they'll be computer literate. Trivial pursuit is going to develop job and supervisor knowledge. It's going to encourage self-assessment and self-directed learning. Problem description, it's going to encourage research skills and teamwork. Generating solutions, well, in addition to research, it is going to stretch people's creativity, their innovative thinking, including digital bigger picture. Implementation is going to develop planning and organizing and change management competencies. Evaluate solution, data analysis and judgments. Presenting, communication, which will include written report, PowerPoint, and verbal confident communication. I've added confidence. We should definitely see a growth in confidence from learners interacting on the team sessions, and especially developed out of the relationship between the learner and his or her mentor. I think that's going to be a very valuable relationship, and during the sessions, learners will have opportunities to share their aha moments and their successes. Just a few thoughts on implementation. 1, continue to run or schedule process engineering and mining groups. 2, include learners from different operations in sessions, like you do now. I'm thinking minimum numbers in a session about 8 and maximum 12. The larger the group, the less talk time per learner. I also want you to bear in mind, the more you have in a group, it might create a challenge in terms of providing technology or computers for learners. So we can obviously discuss that. 3, I would think the minimum number per operation would never be less than 2. And 2 would work very well, nicely sitting behind a laptop. 3 is a crowd, 2 would work nicely, and they would motivate and encourage each other. They obviously would be working on their own projects, but we wouldn't want to see only one person from an operation. That might be a bit tough, being the Lone Ranger. Peter, Mardi, and team, way forward. A few thoughts. If this makes sense to you, if it is triggering a murmur of excitement, it is certainly doing that with me. We need to give you a cost proposal. The scope of that would include the learner guide. I mean, the present guide is focused on the simulation. So we would have to do extensive work on the learner guide to align to this project-based approach and to include the 8 sessions. We would want to develop a video per session, similar to what you see now. We would want to update the project workbook and include the journal, and we would really like to develop that Trivial Pursuit quiz, which we think could actually have many benefits. And we would need to talk about current and new learners. I think there is scope for current learners who have not completed their projects for a way to get them involved in this and cost them separately to new learners. I added a thought here, current future learners. Current learners could simply slot in with new groups and only pay for new materials. Future learners, new proposal based on a per learner basis.